Hey everybody, Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. We're on the Colorado State campus. I'm in Colorado because there's going to be a Charlie Kirk vigil, and I want good political discourse. And so we found this gentleman here who, and just say who you are, and obviously you support Donald Trump.
My name is Greg. I am a supporter of Donald Trump. I'm not a sycophant though.
Good, I'm happy to hear that.
Let me just be very clear about that.
Good.
I support a lot of the policies of Donald Trump. I don't support everything Donald Trump does, but...
So explain to me your shirt. It says Trump 2028.
So the Trump, this was more just as something to trigger, because if I pulled this off, it was a 2020 shirt, and I always liked this shirt. So I was going to put 2024 like it used to be, but I decided to go 2028 just to...
Would you vote for Donald Trump if he ran again in 2028?
He won't run again in 2028.
But if he did,
no.
you would?
Because
okay,
he would.
good.
Because he would. Here's the thing. It's a question that you can ask.
Yeah.
But it will never happen because it's
right.
It's two-term amendment presidency. I think most of these questions is just to troll the left.
I mean, I hope he doesn't run again because that would be against the law.
He's not going to run. It would be against the law.
So let me ask you this. Do you have any kids?
I have an 18-year-old.
Okay. So if Donald Trump, male or female, if you don't mind me asking.
I have a son.
Okay. Say you had a young daughter.
Yeah.
And a guy goes into a teenage girl's locker room while she's undressing and brags about it on the Howard Stern show in a sexual manner. Is that, number one, is that behavior you condone? And number two, would you support somebody like that?
So if I had a daughter and an 18-year-old went into my daughter's locker room and undressed, would I condone that sort of behavior? 100% not.
Would you vote for somebody like that?
I would not.
Donald Trump bragged about going into teenage girls' locker rooms when he ran beauty pageants on the Howard Stern show. In a sexual manner, he bragged about it. It's all over the internet. Okay. You can find it. Does that change your opinion at all?
No, because it's not the behavior.
But you just said you wouldn't vote for somebody like that.
Well, if this was anywhere current, you said Howard Stern. How long ago was he on Howard Stern?
So if you do something really horrible, but it didn't happen recently, it happened 20 years ago, that changes your opinion?
Well, let me ask you this. So are you familiar, during cancel culture and the Me Too movement, I found it to be quite deplorable that there was a lot of individuals who were on the Me Too train. For instance, I like rock music. I like Motley Crue. Have you ever read The Dirt? Are you familiar with the book The Dirt?
I'm not. I want to talk to you about cancel culture. I do. But I just want to ask you one more question. So we agree, going into teenage women's locker rooms is horrible. But why do you put a timestamp on it? If let's just say allegedly, if you rape somebody 20 years ago and you rape somebody a year ago, they're both equally as bad. Why does time have anything to do with your decision?
Well, first off, I don't know. I don't even know the context of the story.
Well, he bragged about it on the Howard Stern show. And there are three women that were there in the locker room.
Howard Stern brags about a lot of stupid things too. And that I've listened to that show back when it was on radio, way before it was on satellite radio. So he's said and done a lot of stupid stuff on his show as well.
But he's never bragged about looking at 14 and 15-year-old girls naked.
We don't know what he's bragged about either.
Well, I mean, the reason why I got into radio is because of Howard Stern. He's never bragged about sexual assault. He's not a 34-count felon. He's never...
Well, neither is Trump. So let's be very clear.
A jury convicted him.
Of what?
Of falsifying business records.
That wasn't him.
Then why did a jury convict him?
Well, the jury convicted him because you know as well as I do. Would you have been okay if they had moved that trial out of New York and into maybe a 50-50 county?
But
they
didn't do that though.
No, of course they didn't.
So you're saying the verdict, the charges, and the felony convictions were all bullshit because 100%. You believe there were Democrats on the jury?
Yeah.
Can you name me one name of one registered Democrat that was on the jury?
No, because I don't care.
So you just assume they're all Democrats.
Where did it take place? Where did the trial take place?
Where
did the trial take place?
In New York.
Where in New York?
Manhattan.
Okay.
So
what is a vote in this last election from Manhattan, Harris versus Trump?
So your opinion is, if you're a Republican that is on trial in Manhattan,
you ain't gonna get a fair trial.
Any Republican can't get a fair trial.
No, I don't believe that.
Okay. Well, I respectfully disagree with that.
Especially Donald Trump. Especially Donald Trump.
I would respect.
Now, if it was a no name, somebody didn't know, It might be a different story, but especially Donald Trump.
So the 25 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault, the fact that he is a liable adjudicated rapist, which was also...
No. It wasn't an adjudicated rapist. Use the right terminology.
The judge characterized it as rape.
I don't care. That's what the judge said, but that's not what the...
So liable sexual abuse.
What was he convicted of, or what was his fine for? What's the fine for?
He was found liable for sexual abuse.
That's wrong.
What was he found liable of?
He was found liable for... what was it? Queen Jean-Pierre for, what's the word I'm looking for? My heart rate's up, so.
That's okay, take your time.
You gotta give me a reason here.
Well, I mean, listen, I've talked about this ad nauseam.
It was, no, it wasn't for rape, it was for slandering or whatever. What was,
It wasn't for slander, so he got found liable for slander after the trial because he continued to slander her. He was found liable for sexual abuse.
Do you really think that he sexually abused her?
So I'll answer your question by saying this, and the answer is yes, but I'll give you the reasons why. His own ex-wife in court documents claimed that he raped her. 25 women have accused him of sexual assault or rape. Donald Trump was best friends with probably one of the biggest sex traffickers on the planet for 10 years.
Who, Epstein?
Yes, for 10
but
years.
You don't know that they were best friends.
Actually, Jeffrey Epstein on audio said that they were best friends.
So,
and Donald Trump.
That's Epstein saying that.
Okay, so you think Epstein would lie? Well, I interviewed Jeffrey Epstein's brother.
Well, wait a second. So you're going to say that Epstein wouldn't lie, but you're also going to give him credibility, even though you just called him a pedophile.
I'm not giving Epstein any credibility. What we see is, do you see pictures with Joe Biden and Jeffrey Epstein? Do you see pictures with Barack Obama and Jeffrey Epstein? In the Maxwell trial, we learned that Donald Trump was on the Epstein plane flight log at least 7 times.
To where?
We don't know where. I'm saying he was on, and also I will say this, answer me this then. So Ghislaine Maxwell, we probably could both agree. Maxwell is a horrific human being. One of the biggest sex traffickers ever. We can agree on that, right? She's a convicted felon. Can we agree on that?
Well, she was convicted.
Okay, so she was convicted for sex trafficking.
Well, I don't know her story. I didn't follow the trial.
Well, she was convicted for sex trafficking, and she was, some of the women have said she was worse than Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump's personal attorney goes to see Maxwell. Maxwell clears Donald Trump's name, and then they send her basically to a Club Med. They send her to a facility that is unheard of, that someone that is charged and convicted of her crimes. Why would they do that?
I don't know. What's your speculation?
My speculation is the same article that the reason why Donald Trump doesn't want anybody talking about the Epstein files.
Well, why do you think that?
Because he's hiding something because he's in the Epstein files.
So you really believe that Donald Trump was in those files? How come they weren't released in the 2020?
Because they were under seal, and the reason why they were sealed is because during the Maxwell trial, Joe Biden was unable to do that. But here's what I will say to that: if in fact Joe Biden didn't want to release the files, or any Democrat, because they were trying to protect somebody, I think it's wrong. Donald Trump doesn't want people like you and me to talk about it. He called us stupid. He called it a hoax. There are dozens of women that were sexually abused.
So you don't know what's in those files. I don't know what's in those files.
What we know is a lot of people were abused.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
We do know that.
And the Wall Street Journal claimed that Donald Trump is in the files. So if you don't think Donald Trump is in those files, why do you think he doesn't want people to talk about it?
Well, we don't know what he is in those files. So you said he was on the flight logs, but we don't know where those flights were going.
No, but we know that.
So we do know that there's other people in those flight logs that just went back and forth in the United States. So maybe New York City to Florida or
okay, possible. But wouldn't you support the files being out there so that the people that are in those files are held to account?
I support the files being out there.
Why won't he release them?
Both Republicans and Democrats.
Sure, I agree. We agree on that. So why won't Donald Trump want anybody to talk about it? In fact, he's called the supporters stupid for even bringing it up.
Well,
what is a reason for Donald Trump doing that? What do you think that reason might be? Could it possibly be because he's hiding something?
I have no idea.
I'm asking you.
You're speculating. No, I don't believe he's hiding anything. I believe 100%. You're making excuses for Biden.
It's not an excuse.
Well, hang on. You said that he couldn't release those files, and now you
for 3 years
expect Trump to release those files.
So for 3. Well, here's what I do know about Joe Biden. He was never seen in a picture with Jeffrey Epstein.
How long has that evidence been in the hands of the FBI?
For quite some time now.
How long?
Sure. Years. I don't know the exact time.
And since 2016,
yeah,
there hasn't been anybody to leak information from the FBI, an FBI that you know was weaponized against Donald J.
Well,
Trump?
I can tell you that there was an ongoing investigation at that time in 2016, and
What
Maxwell
would-
was on trial.
What would be the point?
Mhm.
Why couldn't you? I mean,
I guess-
you know that Washington is a sieve. You know that you can't.
I guess
it's
here's where we
always
disagree.
leaking.
I don't care whether Democrats or Republicans are hiding something. I'm just living in the present right now.
Okay.
And right now, we agree that they should be released,
Sure,
right?
why
We
not?
want the victims to get, we want
I want it all to be released.
Absolutely, I'm with you.
You know, I wanted the Kennedy
Donald
files to be released.
absolutely.
I wanted the Martin Luther King files to be
Sure,
released.
sure. Donald Trump refuses to release the Epstein
But
files.
he is not the only one that can release. That's the
Right now,
thing.
he is. The President of the United States right now does not need a court order or a judge order. If he wanted to,
So
right now,
if
he can release
if
the
that were
files.
the case, then why are we always going through these Democrats and Republicans in Congress voting against releasing certain information?
So,
if he could just,
I'm glad you brought that up.
willy-nilly just say boom.
I'm
let's
glad you
do
brought
it.
that up.
Why does
because
that keep
the
happening?
last vote they had last month, every single Democrat voted to release the files. Republicans are the ones that did not want to release them. Let me repeat. Every Democrat in Congress voted to release the files. Republicans do not want to release the files because they listen to Donald Trump and they're afraid of retribution. And yes, I do believe Donald Trump is a rapist. I do believe
Okay.
Donald Trump is a sexual abuser.
Okay.
I believe he's a racist.
Okay.
The discrimination lawsuits. I believe he only cares about himself.
Okay.
He sells Bibles, Trump Bibles. He's a grifter. I believe Marco Rubio said it best when he said if Donald Trump didn't have all this money from his dad, he would be selling fake gold watches in Manhattan.
Interesting.
He promised to build a wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. He didn't do that in 2016.
Yep.
He said he was going to lock up Hillary Clinton. He didn't do that. This go around, more lies. He said
do you want him to lock up Hillary Clinton?
I didn't say I wanted him to do it, but if she committed a crime, then she should be held to account.
Well, do you think she did not commit a crime?
I haven't seen any evidence to prove that she
So
did.
you don't think that holding state secrets on a personal server is committing a crime? I mean, it goes against every. It goes
if
against
there's
every crime of
evidence-
handling certain intelligence. Well, wait a second. If there's evidence,
Yep.
James Comey came out and said there was evidence, but
And
he
then they-
says that.
right.
But he says that no attorney.
And they did investigate that.
He said, but no attorney would ever dare convict or try and bring her to trial over this, which is BS. I mean,
Well-
there's plenty of attorneys that would have brought her to trial over that.
Then why didn't Donald Trump hire a special prosecutor?
Well, what's
That's the
point?
guy who you voted
After
for.
he was elected, he said, "Let's move on." He
He
stated,
campaigned on that. He said, I'm going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary
after
Clinton.
he got elected.
So that was a lie?
Well, it was.
Was it a lie?
Well, why don't we call it a change of heart?
A change of heart.
Why wouldn't he want to do a change of
Was
heart?
it a-
So wait a second. So you want to keep these people fighting one another. You want to keep the country.
I want to keep people fighting one another. I
here-
want someone
here
to
was
keep
an
their
opportunity-
promises.
So here was an opportunity. He gets elected,
Mhm.
okay, which stunned the world. Didn't really stun me at the time, but it stunned the world. And he gives an olive branch saying, look, let's move on.
So you think that's what it was? It can't be the fact that maybe they didn't have enough to prosecute her?
No, I think it
Or
could-
maybe he just wanted
Well,
to
it was
say that to
immediate.
appease
It was
his base.
immediate. He didn't have a whole
okay,
enough time in office. to
So
even look at
we'll
the
agree
whole
to
thing.
disagree on that. Did he end the war in 24 hours, like he said he would?
Oh, come on, seriously.
Well, did he not say that?
You know Trump speak.
I know
24
Trump.
hours.
So
You
he
know
can
Trump
just
speak.
lie,
You
and you're
don't
okay
know
with
Trump
that?
speak.
He can just
Did
lie.
you really think it was going to take 24 hours to
That-
end a war that was been
So
going on for
you're
more
okay
than
with
2
voting
years?
for a guy who says he's going to do things that you know he's not
Well,
going to do?
how far has he gotten in trying to end the war compared
Nowhere.
to Biden?
It's worse off now than it was on day one.
How is
He
it
rolled
worse?
out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin.
And what has Europe done to help us?
No, I'm going to explain, answer your question. President Xi, Vladimir Putin, and Kim Jong-un met together. Donald Trump admitted they were trying to meet and talk to go after us. Trump admitted that. They didn't do that under Joe Biden. In fact, Joe Biden called Vladimir Putin what he is, an evil, murderous dictator. Why is it that Donald Trump always appeases Putin? Why is it that Donald Trump blames Ukraine for the war? Why is it that Donald Trump calls Vladimir Zelensky the dictator? Why doesn't he go after Putin? Why have there been no sanctions? Why does he coddle to Vladimir Putin?
I don't think he coddles him at all.
So what are the sanctions? How has he punished Vladimir
So how
Putin?
would you do with a nuclear armed country
Well, the first thing
compared
sure.
to a country that is not?
The first thing I wouldn't do is blame our allies. That's exactly what Donald Trump has done.
What are our allies doing?
Our allies are trying to fight a war because Vladimir
How are
Putin
they
invaded
fighting?
them.
No. Let's be very clear about this war. What are our allies doing to fight the war?
Well, they're fighting back. What do you mean?
How
what
are they
doing?
fighting back?
What do you mean? How are they fighting back?
Tell me how they're fighting
Weaponry,
Wait.
Yeah.
Weaponry.
Yeah, sure.
Are they giving it to Ukraine?
We have in the past.
Not we.
Yeah.
Our allies.
Sure.
They're giving.
Do you have a problem?
They are giving.
Well,
Or
not now
selling?
they're not. Not
They're
now.
selling.
Not now they're not. But
they're selling.
Not now they're not.
selling.
Right.
They're not giving them anything.
Not now they're not. But what is that? That doesn't change my argument.
And
though.
are they buying Russian oil?
But that doesn't change my
Are they,
argument.
are they buying Russian
You're
oil?
going into the
Wait.
money factor.
Well,
of it.
no. I'm going into the reason why Russia is still continuing the fight.
So you agree with Vladimir Putin?
No, I don't agree with Vladimir Putin. But you're not trying to strangle. You're not trying to strangle the tumor by cutting off the money supply, which is their oil. And Europe is still buying their oil.
But it hasn't stopped the war. In
Because
fact,
they haven't stopped buying their oil.
every single day Donald Trump says Putin wants peace, there's another airstrike.
I get all that. I understand that.
I thought he was the brilliant negotiator. He said he would end the war within 24 hours.
Look, like I said, he's gotten further than anybody else has. Look, you can't continue the war the way it's been going. So at least he's tried to have this discussion.
How's that worked out?
Well, I'm not saying it's worked out.
Putin won't even meet with Zelensky.
He's at least stated that he's losing his patience on the whole thing, but he's also said he's willing to ratchet up everything on Putin. However, the Europeans aren't doing anything to help. You're just giving they're not giving weapons, they're selling weapons. We are still going to sell weapons.
Okay, but the premise to my first question that I guess I was trying to make is
You
that,
wanted them to end it in 24 hours, and you want to just call it a lie. And I'm not foolish
then
enough
what
to
was
think
it?
that you're going to end up ending a war in 24 hours.
There's a
Why
lot
would
of
you be-
there's,
what- so you
there's a
want-
lot of MAGA supporters that believed him. There's a lot of foolish people that believed him.
Okay.
Because they think maybe you're not one of
There's
them.
a lot of foolish people that believed Obama too. That if you liked your doctor, you could keep your doctor.
Well, Obamacare saved millions. Can you tell me what Donald Trump's health care plan is? Because he said he's had one. It's been 9 years.
Well, I
What's
work
the
in healthcare.
replacement
You
plan?
wouldn't want to know my idea.
Okay, but I appreciate that, but I'm not asking yours. Donald Trump said he had a replacement plan. It was coming in 2 weeks. It was coming in a month. He's now had 9 years. Can you tell me what Donald Trump's replacement plan is?
No, I can't,
Why doesn't he have one?
because Obamacare hasn't been repealed.
He
So-
said he had a replacement plan. We haven't seen it.
I
He's
haven't
been
seen
saying
it
that
either,
for 9
but-
years.
But what do you? I mean, look. Why is it relevant right now when the first plan hasn't even been repealed?
Because Trump has been saying he's going to give us a plan in 2 weeks and a month. He's been saying that for years. That's not a serious policy person when you say, I'm going to have a plan in 2 weeks, I'm going to have a plan in a month. The way it works in Washington is,
Yeah, I know.
The way it works in Washington is if you don't like a policy,
You
then you
come up
have
with
to come
another
up with
plan.
some, right, you
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
That's my frustration with that.
Yeah.
I guess I'll ask you a few more questions. It goes back to, what is he doing for this country right now? What are the policies that you think are making America great again?
Well, I think dialing back taxes. Well, the middle class tax cuts in the big beautiful bill. The
What are
permanency of
those? What are those tax cuts? Because last I saw in the big and beautiful bill, they were the biggest tax cuts for the top 1% in the history of this
Who
country.
pays most of the taxes?
But they're not paying a higher percentage
Who
of taxes.
pays?
That's not a fair argument.
Well, it's not fair.
Not a fair argument because
Okay,
if
so-
Jeff Bezos is paying 15%, and
Yeah.
somebody like you or anybody that's making $50,000 a year is paying 29%, That is not-
What's your problem with a billionaire being a billionaire? Why the envy?
I don't have a problem with a billionaire being a billionaire.
Okay, so-
What I do have a problem with is a
Yeah.
billionaire
Uh-huh.
paying a lower percentage
What
on their
percentage?
taxes.
What percentage do you think they should pay?
The same amount that somebody making $40,000 a year.
How much does somebody pay making $40,000 a year?
Around 28 to 29%. Kamala Harris had a plan, and her plan was if you're making under $400,000 a year, we're going to get that percentage down to 27% or less, and the rich are going to pay their fair share. There's no doubt about this. This isn't. We can have a different opinion on this, but this is not an opinion. The big and beautiful bill has some of the biggest tax breaks that America has ever seen. Now, I don't think that's good for America. And when you look at most economists,
Well, what do you? Well, I think that you should lower energy costs, which will eventually start to come down. You can't just undo 4 years of bad policy
so
in 4 months.
what was bad policy?
Of Biden's bad policy?
What bad policy?
I
Tell
think
me.
passing the Inflation Reduction Act was bad policy.
You think that was bad
I
policy?
think it was terrible policy because inflation went up, did it not?
It went up because we had just started a war and we were just coming out of a global pandemic. Do you think
Who did we start a war with?
Well, first of all, there was a war in the Ukraine. Donald Trump
no,
started a war with us
you
in
said
Iran,
we started-
if you want to get into that.
You said we started the war.
Well, not we. I used the wrong terminology. Do you think Donald Trump did a good job in handling COVID?
To a certain extent, I gave him a lot of crap over a lot of the things. Yes. Do
So
I think he did a good job? No, I don't think the lockdowns were a good job. I think the lockdowns were a terrible idea.
So he allowed the governors, I'll actually defend him on this. He gave the states the right to make their own decisions.
Yeah, but he also chastised those states that did open early.
So do you think we should have had 60,000 people in stadiums when we were losing 3,000 to 4,000 people a day from COVID?
Yeah, we knew who shouldn't have been in those stadiums.
Right, but I don't know what you mean by that. But
Well, I'll explain it. We knew who the population was that was most at risk, who was dying. Do we not?
I disagree. I'm 42.
Oh, really?
I'm 42 years old. I was in the ICU for 2 weeks and I almost died. I'm a very healthy person. I'm in pretty good physical condition and I almost died. I know people that died around my age that were extremely healthy.
Well,
Yes, I do.
I lost one of my best friends.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. A lot of people lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the point that I'm trying to make is we weren't prepared for it. There were a lot of mistakes that were made. No question.
But
but-
who do you think would have been prepared for it?
Well, Obama left a basic
Oh, come on.
handbook.
Don't give me that stuff.
Well, that's not a
Don't-
lie.
don't-
It's true.
It's not.
It's true.
Obama.
So you think Donald
Do
Trump?
you really think the government bureaucracy can fix everything?
I never said that. But I think.
So-
but you agree
so-
with me. Donald
but
Trump did a terrible job.
No, well, based on the policies.
Using-
Once we found out that COVID was here, which we all know
Mm-hmm.
had gotten here before we could even assess what the hell was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once it got here, and we were dealing with a virus we didn't know about, but we knew who was dying. There was certain parts of the population who were dying off, and there was a lot of people who were getting it.
Thousands
No
of children
problems.
also died. Thousands.
Thousands.
That's a lot of people. One is too many.
And out of all the thousands of children, how many of them had pre-existing conditions?
2/3 of this country has pre-existing conditions. So
Okay.
we are a very unhealthy country. But Donald Trump took COVID press conferences and turned them into campaign rallies. Donald Trump is the guy that talked
No,
about...
that's your opinion.
Okay, so he didn't talk about Joe Biden and he wasn't attacking Democrats in COVID press conferences?
I'm sure he was.
He was,
but-
yes. That's why I said
mean,
that.
but
That's why I say that. Did he talk about injecting yourself with disinfectant? You think that was appropriate?
He did not talk about injecting yourself
He
with
didn't.
disinfectant
What
or
did he say?
bleach or whatever.
What did he say?
He was talking about, I mean, it was more of a flippant
Bleach?
comment than anything.
A flippant
Well,
comment?
nobody's going to inject themselves with bleach.
Actually, somebody did and they died.
No, somebody also took, what was it? Was it ivermectin or what was the, yeah, it was the ivermectin.
Do you think it's appropriate, though, to make a statement like that when we're in a global pandemic?
I mean, do you give agency to any person for responsibility? I mean,
The President of the United
if
States?
an
Absolutely.
individual has agency,
Yeah.
okay, and he says in a flippant comment to inject bleach, you're going to blame the president and not blame the
We're not
person for
talking-
injecting bleach?
So I blame both, but here's the thing.
Why would
This
you just
isn't
blame
water-
the individual?
because
at
when
what point are you going to decide that somebody should?
Because when you're the president
responsible
of,
for their
because
own
when you're the
actions.
president of the United States and you have a huge platform, you have a responsibility to be very careful with your words. And unfortunately, there are a lot of dumb people out there
Okay.
that listen to every word that Donald Trump says as truth.
Well, I don't.
I'm not saying you did, but it was inappropriate for him.
Well, most of the people that I know
Mm-hmm.
that are Trump supporters, if not all of them,
Do you believe Trump won the 2020 election?
I think it's very suspect. And
Why is it
I
suspect?
found it to be more, well, what I always said, that here is the fraud of the 2020 election. It was the mail-in ballot. Given everybody a mail-in ballot.
We were in a global pandemic and there was no evidence of
Giving
widespread voter fraud.
it was a Democrat's dream.
But there was no evidence
was
of
a
what's the evidence of widespread voter fraud? Donald Trump is the only president in the history of this country that
You
did
didn't
not
let me
concede.
finish.
Sorry, go
You
ahead.
didn't finish.
Go ahead.
The fraud was everybody, dumb people, like you say, there's a lot of dumb people in America,
Sure.
to vote from the damn couch.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're giving a ballot to everybody
Mm-hmm.
to vote from their damn couch, rather than having them get up, we live in a Colorado state, so we're
Mm-hmm.
a mail-in state. But when you give everybody across the United States, and not everybody is set up for mail-in ballot, yeah, there could be potential fraud, but
Potential fraud.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but more than that, the fraud was that everybody got a ballot. And
Okay.
if you have a house of 4 people, And then somebody went through and filled out the ballot and then had their family members sign.
So you don't like mail-in ballot voting. So Donald Trump mail-in ballot voted his entire life. During the pandemic, he told people not to mail-in ballot.
Whoa. So if you're saying that he did that, that was absentee ballot, and you had to register for an absentee ballot. It wasn't just given to everybody like it was in the 2020 election.
But in order for the election to be stolen, there would have to be evidence of widespread voter fraud.
Okay, so
nobody has shown that evidence.
I gave you my opinion. Now, here is why I find it more suspect. Okay, so my thing was everybody got to vote. That was the fraud. Okay? Now, the thing with the 2028 election is where did all your voters go?
2024, you mean?
2024 election. Where did all your voters go?
Well, the first thing I would say to that is I know a lot of people that didn't vote. They were tired. They were angry.
At whom?
At both parties. There's a lot of people that didn't vote. But that doesn't mean there was fraud. I guess the point I'm trying to make here.
What was the vote tally for Trump in 2024?
I don't recall the exact number. I know that it was he
got more than
very
he got
close
in
election.
2020.
Yeah, he did. It was a very close election. He won the popular vote, but it was very tight. Let me ask you another question. Does January 6th happen if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen?
Well, what was January 6th to you? Was it an insurrection?
I don't really care what people label it.
So it was a riot.
But I don't care what people label it.
Was it a riot? I think it was a riot.
Like I said, I don't really care.
I don't think it was an insurrection.
Okay, even if that's true, which I would probably disagree with you on, but even if that's true, that's not important to me. What's important to me is that 140 officers were injured. People died that day. It was a very embarrassing day for the country. Well, there were a few people that died. There was a woman that was trampled that also had a heart attack. Ashley Babbitt.
Did she die of being trampled, or did she die of the heart attack?
Both. You could look it up. Both.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Both. Ashley Babbitt was killed. I could also tell you that 140 officers were injured. Multiple officers have still traumatic brain injury to this day. It was a very bad day for the country, and you know that. You saw the videos of it.
So you're talking about two Trump supporters that died.
I don't
on
really,
the day.
I don't really care whether they're a Trump supporter or not, but I would also tell you that Brian Sitnick died the next day.
Yeah. What did he die of?
While the coroner said natural causes, the coroner also said that he believed that the events of that day may have also led to his death.
Okay.
He did an interview and he also said that. So if you think Brian Sitnick just died the next day and it had nothing to do with the past 24 hours, I would disagree with you on that. I could also tell you that several officers committed suicide in the months after, and their families said they were never the same since that day. The point I'm trying to make, besides getting into the weeds, is it was a very bad day for the country. It was a violent day. A lot of people were hurt, injured. Some people died.
Some people were violent, yes.
Okay. Does it happen if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen?
I don't know.
You don't know. So if Donald Trump conceded, which every other president...
But you can't deny...
Hold on.
No, wait, you can't deny...
There's two guys and some cookies.
Oh, we're good. Thank
you so much. You can't deny that he said, we are going to go to the Capitol, we are going to peacefully...
You can't deny that he said that Joe Biden stole the election and the Democrats stole the election.
When that had happened, the riot was already happening.
Okay, but that's not my question.
Before that had happened, the riot was already
That's
happening.
not my question. My question is, if Donald Trump doesn't lie, and it's been nothing's been proven that the election was stolen,
okay, so
until you prove it in a court of law, which he had the opportunity to do so.
Well, I don't think it was ever really litigated because it never got past certain points of the judges.
Because the judges said there was no merit.
Right.
Nobody has showed any evidence of widespread voter fraud.
So
you could have your opinions.
So if you have the opinion, so knowing what you know about the Supreme Court and the opinions of the left, as opposed to the Supreme Court, their low opinion ratings of the Supreme Court. What makes you think that the judicial system isn't going to have I'm not going to have a low opinion of the judicial system?
Okay, so if you disagree with the judicial system, answer me this one question.
I don't disagree with the judicial system.
Okay.
I want fairness within the judicial system.
So name me one piece of evidence or proof.
It was never presented. It was never allowed.
Shouldn't somebody have presented that in public? If there was a smoking gun and there was actually evidence of widespread voter fraud, don't you think we would have heard about it by now from somebody, not Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, or Dinesh D'Souza? We would actually hear it from somebody credible. There has been nobody to this day.
I don't find Dinesh D'Souza non-credible.
Really, you think 2,000 Mules was by the way, 2,000 Mules, he was sued and he litigated it and he had to pay people out for literally lying in his documentary.
Okay, well.
You You call that guy credible? A felon who did a documentary that was... I mean, he's a felon.
Yeah, so you're very loose with the terms felon. Just because somebody is convicted of something...
They're a felon.
Well, that's what you say.
No, that's what our court system says. That's what our judicial system says.
But so I find that term very loose when you say it about Donald Trump. Oh yeah, it's absolutely loose because like I just said to you earlier...
I'm not a felon.
It wasn't...
I've never been convicted of a felony.
Neither am I, but it wasn't a fair trial.
Well, that's your opinion.
And if it were,
Got you.
would you have had any problem with
so
moving
into
a county that was more 50-50?
So in your opinion, it doesn't matter whether you're convicted of a felony. In your opinion, if you don't agree with the outcome, you're not a felon.
I didn't
agree with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, but you know
what was wrong with that?
The difference between you
and
me.
What was wrong with that?
I'm trying to make a point.
Okay.
The difference between you and me is
you accepted it.
I accepted it, and I don't call him a felon. I think he's an idiot. He shouldn't have been there.
Why shouldn't he have been there?
Because he's a 17-year-old, and by the way, he even admitted this. He's a 17-year-old dressed up in camouflage with no police training, going into a very dangerous situation.
And why was it
Nothing
dangerous?
good is going to happen about that. Well, riots can be very dangerous.
Yeah, well, who was doing the riots?
What does that have to do with my point? My point is Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have been there. A 17-year-old by himself.
So an American citizen is unallowed to travel.
I didn't say he was unallowed. I didn't say he broke the law.
So he
I
had
didn't say that.
He had every right to be there. By the way,
I didn't say he didn't have the right.
You knew he was there ahead of time, and he was helping trying to clean up
my argument
on walls. Was he not? Was he not?
Well, here's why I disagree with that too.
But he was there doing.
My opinions are backed up with facts. A week before.
So it's not a fact that he was there earlier trying to help clean graffiti off the walls.
I'm telling you why I don't think that was his objective. A week before, which was not admissible in a court, he is caught on video watching people shoplift down there, and he says on video, "I wish I could shoot them." Now that wasn't admissible in court. It's on camera. That's not somebody that just wants to go there with a gun who just wants to clean things up. It shows you the mind frame. And Charlie Kirk, rest his soul, is the guy who paid Kyle Rittenhouse to speak on college campuses. I find that despicable. But the reason why I bring up Kyle Rittenhouse is because even though I don't like the guy, I've never called him a murderer. Why? Because our courts made the decision, and a jury made the decision, that it was self-defense. While I might not agree, I don't call him a felon. There are people that are convicted of felonies. I might not agree with the outcome, but that doesn't mean they're not a felon.
Who was being attacked? Kyle Rittenhouse or the guys that got shot?
I just told you I don't agree that he should have been there. I've never called him a
so
murderer.
he shouldn't have been there.
Yeah. He should not have been there. It was horrible judgment for him to be there, but he was.
And he was armed.
I've never said he was a criminal. I never said that.
Were the guys he shot?
I never said that either. You're missing my point. My point is, he wasn't convicted.
Well,
therefore, he's not a murderer.
My point is, he was there doing something good for the community. Whatever was said.
I disagree.
Whatever. I mean, look, in the comfort of your own home, we all say stupid shit. Okay. So you're not perfect.
But in the comfort of our own home, we don't.
Right,
but in the comfort of our own home, when we say we dream of shooting people that are shoplifting toothpaste, we don't dream of shooting them.
I probably have said some things about some of the riots that I can't remember, but wish that somebody had probably taken care.
Did you wish that on January 6th? Because you labeled it a riot. Have you ever criticized those people? Did you criticize that riot?
The violent ones, absolutely.
You did. Okay, good.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that.
Anybody that was violent on January 6th.
We agree.
Yeah.
Why did the guy who you support call them hostages and patriots and pardon 1,500 people, some of them who beat cops with their own batons?
Well, they were all pardoned, likely because they weren't treated fairly within the justice system.
If you beat a police officer in this country, forget about January 6th. There are some people that are sentenced to 10 to 20 years behind bars.
Well, were they all pardoned, or were some of their sentences commuted?
Overwhelming majority.
Yeah, well, but did some of the higher crimes, or those who?
No. I know the leader of the Proud Boys who got a 22-year sentence. Okay,
Yeah.
He served a year and a half and he's out. But my point still stands, and I wanted to ask you about this. He called all those people, not the nonviolent ones. And I agree with you. Some of the people were over sentenced.
Well, don't you?
But
Don't you think that the treatment of people who just walked into a Capitol when the doors were open, when somebody kind of invited them in and just let them stroll through?
It's not how it worked.
Well, wait. It is how it worked.
There were a couple of
I've seen those videos of people who walked in.
There were a few,
and then they walked in. There was more overwhelming evidence that these people who had walked in didn't damage the Capitol. Now, I'm not
talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who beat cops.
What I'm trying to get to is these people were not treated fairly.
All of them?
Yes, all of them.
Even the people who beat police officers.
No, I'm talking about, when I say all of them, all of these people who were peaceful, were in the Capitol, but those who had done things to officers, yes, they should have
Listen,
they should have met
I'm
their
not
justice.
talking about the nonviolent people.
What I'm trying to draw the correlation between the two is you had a majority of these people who weren't violent, who didn't do anything to do anything.
They broke
at
the law.
Capitol.
They still broke the law.
What was it?
Well, first of all, trespassing. There were people that defecated on Nancy Pelosi's desk, destruction of property. There were areas that they should not have been in that they were in.
So we're not talking about people defecating on somebody's desk.
Well,
we're talking which would be a crime anywhere else. But you have people defecating in the street, but nobody
there's a difference
comes up on
between
them and say you're trespassing.
That's
and I'm
also
gonna send
against
you
the
to
law.
jail.
But there's a difference between defecating in the street and going into the Capitol.
What I'm trying to say is that a lot of the media that I was digesting, I would see these people who I thought were treated unfairly. Now,
well, I don't know what media you're watching.
Well, I watch it all.
Okay, but let's go back to my original question, because I think we're getting in the weeds here, and I'm not talking about the nonviolent.
You can't talk to just surface with me and not go into the weeds on some of these things.
But he called them all hostages and patriots.
Because what I'm saying is, it was just more of a blanket. More of these people over here is probably what he was talking about.
Then call them nonviolent. But he didn't say that, my friend. He didn't say that. He didn't say, listen, for the nonviolent criminals, I feel like they were mistreated. By the way, I don't think you're a patriot when you go in there. That doesn't make you a patriot.
Well, if I had been there, okay, and the doors were wide open.
Okay, the doors were not wide open. There was testimony about that, and there were a couple officers that let people in, as you say, because they had guns, and there was 2 against 200. So you either take out your gun and you start shooting people, or you say, okay, I'm going to have to let them in because I don't want to kill people. I actually think they made the right decision. How do we know this? Because they testified. They weren't people that said, hey, come on in. And
you mean, so they weren't beat up?
What do you mean?
The cops that let him in.
Not every police officer. Not every police officer was beaten. Okay. There were some police officers that were, 140 of them. The point I'm trying to make is, why not just say they were not all hostages and patriots? There were some very bad people that did some very violent things.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you that some of these people I would have treated a little bit differently. Yeah. But I mean, I don't agree with Trump on 100% of everything either.
Well, I don't agree with any politician on 100% of everything.
No, well, I mean, there's definitely that.
What was your biggest problem with Kamala Harris?
I think it speaks for itself. She's pretty unqualified to be the president of the United States.
Why was she unqualified? She was attorney general twice. She was a senator. Well, what's funny about that?
I'm from California, by the way.
Okay, so do you disagree? She wasn't elected twice as attorney general?
Well, she could be elected there, but any Democrat.
Is that a qualification to be a senator or an attorney general or a vice president?
What did she do as a senator that was so profound?
Well, there's a lot of things she's done as a senator that's profound.
What has she done that was so profound?
First of all, gun legislation. There was more bipartisan gun legislation when she was serving than in the last 30 years. Healthcare, I believe that Kamala Harris...
And she put forth that legislation?
Well, she was the vice president of the United States.
No. I said...
Right.
You said as a senator. I said as a senator.
So you're asking me as a senator, what did she accomplish? I would have to look at her voting record.
Okay, never mind. Okay, now go back to vice president.
But I can tell you what she campaigned on. As the vice president, you're not a policymaker. It's your job to...
So what gun legislation do you want to see?
A lot of what she...
Which was?
Well, first of all, if you're making under $400,000 a year, lowering your
tax... No, go to the guns. We've already talked about it. Go to the guns.
No, I was talking about... Okay, let's talk about guns.
You said something about...
Let's talk about guns. We have 140 guns per 100 people in this country. Mm-hmm. We have more guns than almost any other country in the world. And we have more gun violence than any other country in the world. But yet every single time there's a mass shooting, we hear thoughts and prayers. What I want to see is change, and I'm not someone
that
just.
You want to see?
I will name you 5 or 6 things right now because I talk about this on my show all the time, and I'm not saying you have to agree with every one of them.
Yeah.
But I actually have some things. First of all, I think it should be. I know driving a car is a privilege, but when you drive a car and try to get your license, they do a health check. They check your eyes. You have to drive a car. There's an instructor there. They have to make sure you know how to drive a car. An 18-year-old can walk into any gun store today and buy a gun with 0 training or eyesight or anything. I have a serious problem with that. We need more comprehensive background checks. There was an assault weapons ban in the early 80s. Gun violence was way down. It fizzled out because Republicans allowed it to fizzle out, and then gun violence went back up. I also believe there should be at least a mandatory 2-hour class. In that 2-hour class, if you're going to have a gun, you should learn the basics. How to shoot a gun, and how to properly store a gun. That's all. Just a 2-hour class. Because if I'm in a supermarket and there's an active shooter and there's someone in there, a good guy with a gun, I want to know they know how to use the gun. They have a little bit of training. That's number 4. Number 5, red flag laws. I'm not saying that if I make a phone call and say, hey, I don't like that Trump supporter, he threatened my life, and lie, that they should take your guns away. However, it should be a case-by-case basis, and in some states, if a husband threatens a wife, for example, I'm going to kill you tonight. In many states, even if she has a recording of it, that guy can still buy a gun. So I believe we're a country that is obsessed with our guns. I'm not against the Second Amendment. I want people like you. You said you're not a felon. I believe you. I want people like you.
I had to go through a background check.
Well, no, I understand that, but I want people like you to have the right to defend yourself. I'm not anti-gun. What I'm anti is Parkland shooter. 80 times the police were called to his house, and yet he was still able to get his hands on a gun. This 22-year-old who murdered Charlie Kirk.
Did he buy the gun?
Yes. My understanding, he bought the gun legally. 80 times. 80 times. Should that guy have a gun? Of course not. I think guns are way too easy and accessible to people. And if the excuse by and by the way, just give me 2 of those 5 or 6 things I mentioned, and I believe it'll help. Do I think it could have saved Charlie Kirk's life? I'm not saying I'm not saying every school shooting would, everyone would be saved by this stuff, but I do think it would help. And when I hear Republicans say thoughts and prayers and more guns make us safer, which the evidence proves it does not, more guns do not make us safer, and the good guy does not always win. We had a black police officer a couple weeks ago that was killed by, I'm going to say it, a Trump-supporting vaccine anti-nut job. He killed an innocent black police officer who served his country. I believe in Minnesota. I might have the state wrong. It happened 2 weeks ago. Donald Trump didn't lower the flag half-mast for him. Donald Trump didn't mention his name. I don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. I want gun violence, and I know you agree with me on this. There's too much gun violence in this country. Even if we disagree on how to fix it, we need to do more as a country. And we're not doing that. I want mentally ill people to not be able to get guns. And it's one of my biggest criticisms of the right. I agree with the right on capital punishment. I agree we need to have secure borders, okay? I don't disagree with everything Republicans stand for. But when you wear an AR-15 pin the day after a school shooting in the House chambers, which George Santos and others did, I find it utterly despicable. It's interesting. They didn't do that after Charlie Kirk was
I
murdered.
thought George Santos was just despicable anyway.
Well,
But
I know George Santos.
I don't live in New York.
I know George Santos.
Okay.
I'm giving you an example. There were other Republicans.
I didn't live in New York. I wouldn't have voted for him.
Understood. I wouldn't have either. But there were multiple Republicans that wore AR-15 pins, as they walked into D.C. the day after a school shooting. People like Lauren Boebert who give their 5-year-olds AR-15s to hold for a Christmas photo. Mm-hmm. I find that disgusting behavior.
Why?
Why? Because I don't think a 5-year-old should be carrying a gun, whether it's loaded or not. I think it's
5-year-olds hunt.
Huh?
5-year-olds hunt.
I don't. You're okay with a 5-year-old holding an AR-15?
Sure, why not? I have no problem with it.
I mean, I'm speechless. You're okay with 5-year-olds holding weapons that can kill people?
All weapons kill people. All weapons can kill people. If they were holding a knife, could that kill a person?
Would you want a 5-year-old
If they were
holding
holding
a knife?
hammer, could that kill a person?
Do you think it's safe for a 5-year-old to hold a knife or a hammer?
What does AR stand for, by the way?
So we're going to get into the weeds on what an assault rifle is.
No, I want to know your knowledge of weapons.
Okay, so here's
what does AR stand for?
So assault rifle. So here's.
No, it doesn't stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite.
So here's my opinion on this.
No. If you're going to talk to me about weapons, I want to know that you know the difference between a magazine and a clip. I want to know that when you say AR-15, you know the AR stands for Armalite. It doesn't stand for assault rifle.
So here's my thing. If we're going to talk about gun violence, I want to know what some of your solutions are. We can get in the weeds on your knowledge on what weapons are, but that's not going to help anybody. Tell me what your solutions are.
How about this? How about you go to some of these Democrat cities where they let people out who have weapons charges on them. They will let them out of jails. They will go and get another weapon.
So you think this is a Democrat issue?
I do.
You do?
I do.
So you think more guns make us safer?
I think I have a right, an enumerated right of the Constitution, which is my Second Amendment right. Your Second Amendment right.
Okay, so what are your solutions?
You have, just as we're talking about the 1A, you have every right to exercise that right. I have every right to exercise my right. And that right shall not be infringed. Just as nobody should infringe your speech, it does come with certain things you can incite riots. You can't.
So we shouldn't change anything. Just keep things going the way they are.
Well,
with all the violence we have?
So let's take the most recent gun shooting, which was at Evergreen. What would have prevented that?
I think there's a lot of things that could prevent a lot of incidents from happening.
What would have prevented that one
I'm not
incident?
familiar with which shooting are you referring to?
It was the same day as Charlie Kirk shooting.
You're talking about the school shooting.
Yes, in Evergreen.
Well, I don't know a lot about the shooter,
Okay.
so I don't want to comment on something.
So what was the most recent one before that?
Minneapolis, the school shooting in Minneapolis, where it was a Catholic school and
Oh yeah.
a deranged individual shot through
Yeah.
windows with an AR-15.
How did they get the weapon?
My understanding is that person legally purchased the weapon. That's
Okay.
my understanding. It's also my understanding that there are certain weapons that are designed for one reason and one reason only, not to hunt, but to shoot as many
Have you
rounds.
ever fired an AR-15?
Yes, I have. To shoot as many weapons as shoot as many bullets as possible in a short period of time. Now, if you think you need some of these weapons to defend yourself, I disagree with you. But I haven't heard any solutions from you. That's
Well,
my issue.
Because your solution is to what? Ban a weapon?
I have 5 or 6 solutions I gave you. I
Okay.
think we should do
So
mandatory
let-
training.
So
I haven't heard one
if
solution.
it's an enumerated right.
So
do
why-
you tell somebody what they can and can't say? You need to teach somebody how to speak in the
So
one
why
act?
don't we have tankers? Why aren't grenades legal?
Well, because these are military weapons. An
you-
AR-15 is not a military
So you
weapon.
don't think assault weapons are military weapons?
Every weapon is a weapon of assault?
Okay, so the weapons that are used by our brave men
An
and women in
AR-15,
uniform.
an AR-15 is a semi-automatic weapon. Do you have any idea what the semi-automatic weapon means?
What
Do you know that I can fire? Do you know that I can fire a handgun just as fast as I can fire an AR-15 rifle?
The biggest mass shootings in this country are not executed with handguns. I was in Las Vegas.
Well,
when-
one of the biggest ones was, and that was the Virginia Tech shooting. You remember that?
I do, but
those
I also
were all handguns.
I also remember the Las Vegas shooting. I remember the Sandy Hook shooting. I remember the Columbine shooting. I
Yeah.
remember the Minneapolis shooting.
Well, Columbine wasn't with an AR-15.
And they were assault weapons that were used, were they not?
But you keep saying assault weapons.
Were they
every
not?
weapon?
Okay.
Every weapon is a weapon
Okay,
of assault.
but-
if I assault you with a hammer, is it not
Okay,
an
but
assault
here's
weapon?
my problem with this conversation. You're entitled to your opinion, obviously. I've given you 5 or 6
Well,
solutions.
I'm going to go back to my rights. I know what my rights are.
Okay, but you're not giving me any solutions.
I don't need to come up with a solution for an enumerated right that shall not be infringed.
So you don't think we should
I
do
have
anything?
I have a right to protect myself.
I didn't say you don't.
Okay, you have a right to protect yourself. Now, if some of these kids are getting these weapons, now you said that you don't know how this person got this weapon and not how this person.
Well,
got
in
this
some
weapon.
cases I do,
I don't.
but
I
not-
don't know. Okay, so
Yeah.
so if you go to Adam Lanza took the weapons from his mother and then shot himself and then went in and
Well,
and killed the kids at Sandy
people
Hook.
should be more
Okay, so-
responsible
so-
with their weapons,
so-
and they should put them in areas where people don't have access to them.
Well, okay.
That's part of
But
training,
you
which
can't. But you can't legislate that.
yes, you can.
How are you going to legislate it?
If somebody
His mother was dead. Who are you going to convict?
Okay, well, here's what I would say to that. If you are caught or somebody is caught with a gun that is not registered to them and they get the gun illegally from somebody, and even if there's not a death, but they find out that they got the gun from somebody that was irresponsible, then that person should be prosecuted.
No problem.
Well, okay, but I don't see Republicans pushing for those laws.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a Democrat?
So hey, let me ask you this. So my father dies, and I get his weaponry, and I put it in my house or what have you. And cops come in for whatever reason. Not saying that would ever happen. They come in and they search, and then they find out that my father, who gifted me his weapons, is not registered to me. Should I be convicted over
It
this?
has to be done in a legal fashion. And there's a lot.
wait. So my father has to do what to give me his weapons?
If you give a weapon to somebody and it's done in an illegal fashion where it's not registered to you, if somebody is caught with an illegal gun, I think there should be a mandatory prison sentence. I think if you sell somebody a gun illegally, there should be a mandatory
So what
prison
would be
sentence.
so I go back to if my father gives me the weapon, he's my flesh and blood. Okay, my father dies and he gives me my weapon. Or an uncle, or it's just
I'm
family
not
member.
necessarily.
And then I'm caught with that.
I'm not necessarily talking about those circumstances. I'm talking about
Okay, but
a
you
lot
have-
of illegal guns that are on the streets.
Okay, I'm all for getting illegal guns off the streets.
Okay, but then Republicans and Democrats, when they talk about these issues, Republicans want to make it easier for get their hands on guns, not harder.
legal guns. Legal.
What are
guns.
they doing to stop people from getting illegal guns? What policies have Republicans put forward to try to help
Why
this situation?
Well, so when you have Democrat, or when you have Democrat attorneys or AGs or whomever who are letting people off out of jails and into the streets for whatever nonviolent crimes,
So-
but they have gun charges in the past,
So
and
you-
then somebody gets involved in a murder. You
So-
hear these stories all the time.
So
and you know you do.
So if that's a case by case basis, I would want to know each case, and I
And,
do
and
believe.
what would you want to do with the people who have weapons charges?
I believe if you have a weapons charge, you should never be allowed to have purchase or have a gun for the rest
How
of your
about
life.
keeping them in jail?
It depends on what the charge is. It depends on, it's dependent on what it is. But yes, I do think our laws need to be stronger.
I'm not even cool with somebody who's legally has a weapon, brandishing a weapon.
Do you think a
unless
convicted
they-
felon should have a weapon?
No.
So you voted for a guy that legally shouldn't be allowed to have a weapon. I mean, you're laughing, but it's true.
Well, he doesn't have a weapon, so.
I know that, but
He's
I'm
got
just
bodyguards.
making a point. Anyway, I appreciate conversations like this. I think we need to have more conversations like
I'm
this.
willing to keep doing it. What else do you want to talk about?
48 minutes is a long time. I didn't think we were, but I enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the conversation. And I think as Americans, we need to have more conversations like this. And I think that's the problem: is people are not willing to have conversations like
So
this.
I just met this gentleman this morning. What's funny is I was watching Pierce Morgan Uncensored late last night, right before I went to bed. And I was like, is this the same guy that was on Pierce Morgan Uncensored? And sure enough,
Did I do a good job?
On Pierce Morgan?
Yeah.
Well,
What would you give me on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the best,
well,
1 being the worst.
I think you did the job that you were supposed to do on that program.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you doing this. I'll shake your hand. Thank you. More Americans need to do this. And there you go, everybody. A good conversation with a guy with a Trump 2028 shirt. Did you think we could have a respectful? We did.